free. I'll pass over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Nikki. So my name is Yuvavir. I'm part of the defense and intelligence team here at Celebrite in India. And my background is military. I served for 11 years in the Indian Army. And out of that 1 year, I spent in Africa. And I currently take care of the defense and intelligence customers in India in particular. And I would like to thank everybody for joining us for this session today. Over to you, Nikki.
Well, thanks, Yuvi. Righto. Oh, and before we go forward, feel free to add us on LinkedIn if you want. Scan the QR code, and we're occasionally active, and we'll add you for sure. Now, before we
so guys,
Adam, there's a poll. Do you want to take on that?
Yeah, guys. So similar to the one that we did with Brian, or if you've joined fresh, there's a poll here, and it's just to frame up and to give Nikki and Yuvavir just a bit of information on where to discuss. So you will need to actually click on the screen. So when a device or drone is recovered in the field, how long does it typically take your team within your own environments to get usable intelligence from it? So you'll actually need to just click the screen. So either minutes, the same day, 1 or 2 days, more than 2 days, and lastly, which is going to be the red flag, will be we can't access it at all. Now, what I'd be interested to see is after you've clicked on the poll, is hitting the question and answers in relation to if you can't access it. We've got a lot of different engagements where we've done. Sometimes it's a technology issue, but equally sometimes it's a legislation issue, and we actually don't have laws that will permit us to conduct the extraction. And that's where we want to try and engage a little bit more and have that discussion in relation to applicable legislation and what you can and can't do. So there's plenty of studies where legislation doesn't actually keep up with the rate of technology. There's theses on it. Is it theses or thesi? So if you select, I've gone rogue. If you select your option, and so the poll results as they sit at the moment are right there. So it's not too bad, 1 to 2 days. And with that, I'll just hand straight back to Nikki and Yuvi to continue the session. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yeah, we're not going to get into the debates of theses or thesi. I don't know. So thank you also for the poll. It actually gives a good indication of where we're at, and you will also be taking a bit more on the drone conversation that we've got today as well. But yeah, not too bad overall. Like 10% though are only doing it in minutes. But again, you'll see during my presentation, the minutes matter. And yeah, we'll go on from there. It'll explain itself. All right. So look, over the next 40 minutes, this session, right? It's first on scene, okay? The operational intelligence at the edge, okay? We'll walk through how digital intelligence is captured, triage, and shared the moment it's encountered, right? So going back to the poll, like what you can do to change it, so you don't have to potentially wait for a few days for for it to be processed in the lab, right? Now, oops, sorry, went a bit too far ahead. Now, what we'll cover today is, as we said, so critical intelligence is encountered quite often long before it even reaches the lab, right? It's all well and good to get it, but what do you do when you actually action it? Okay, so this is the thread that's running through everything we'll show you today. And I hear it from operators on the ground as well. So what we'll do with this presentation, we'll start with some on-scene mobile extraction capabilities, and then move into like the digital intelligence extraction workflows that support them around. And once we go through that, then Yuvavir will take you through drone extractions and we'll review those at the point of encounter. And then we'll have a Q&A as well. And obviously you can use Q&A throughout the whole thing as well. Now, a bit of context and why this is relevant right now. Before we get into all the capability, it's worth to talk about why this matters now. Okay, and what you're seeing here is like a bit of a snapshot of the operational reality, right? That our customers are seeing, and they're working with, like from Ukraine to the tensions over in Thailand, Cambodia, and these show us that global conflict activity, right? Whether that's domestic terrorism or full-on conventional warfare, it's not slowing down. It's actually intensified, and but every one of these environments now they generate enormous volumes of digital intelligence, right at the point of contact. And what I want to talk about is some of our primary information sources that we see. Some of this will be a bit obvious, but it's always worth to talk about them and highlight what we have at the moment, right? So when we talk about where the intelligence actually comes from, it breaks down to like three primary sources that we see. Okay, mobile phones are the number one intelligence source of the battlefield as we see it from the DNR perspective. Okay, every soldier has a phone. We've seen it in Ukraine, and in the Middle East. Everybody's using something. They're not just using just one. But they're the number one intelligence source on our battlefield, full stop. So we need to have something to be able to access that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Phones are the next big thing. Obviously, it's the big thing right now. And as we saw, like even what the UN Human Rights Monitoring, they said 70 or 80% of combat casualties in the Ukraine were related to drones. So that's another big data source that we need to be able to be on top of. All right. And last but not least, computers, of course, seized those kinds of devices, right? They're important. That they hold oftentimes, like they can hold a full operational picture, right? Comms, maps, all right, finances, and together these three devices are where we start building an operational picture of intelligence, and we start getting information superiority. Okay, and this is where we can actually get the edge over the enemy or our adversaries, or we lose it, right? Just click next. Now, what from our digital intelligence perspective and from defense and intelligence as well, what did they reveal, right? So it's a so what. What do these devices reveal once you get access, right? There's six main categories. I know there can be more, but six main ones from the operator's perspective that are important for us, right? So we've got communications, so encrypted chats, call logs, deleted messages. So this is where, you start seeing coordination between operatives, your location data, all right? So movement patterns over, weeks or months, because, there's GPS history, cell tower data, Wi-Fi connections. It maps movements of a device and an operator. The contacts list, you can start mapping the network of the phone books, group memberships. What are they a part of in their network? Are there any hidden contacts? Those kinds of critical information. Financial stuff, so the payment apps, bank data, crypto. So you'll be able to trace. You want to be able to trace funding and any logistic trails to see where the money's coming from to maybe fund these guys, right? And last but definitely not least is the timeline, right? Like, so what's the pattern of life on the device? What's the behavior? What's the operational planning? Often from a timeline, you can actually see when someone's using the phone the most. And you can start seeing the the operational hours of activity, right? So if these guys are doing mostly night ops and you've got their phone, you'll be able to see specific times when the phone was not being used or when it was being used. So there's definitely a lot that digital intelligence can reveal. And if we're not taking advantage of this stuff, we're missing critical intelligence. It's a lot of critical intelligence that we lose. We lose that edge. And then here's the other problem, right? Because nothing's easy. There's an overload reality, right? So modern operations have taught us that, well, data is not an advantage unless you can use it in time. Okay, it's all well and good to grab terabytes of data, but if we don't action it in a timely manner, we miss key windows of opportunity. So we conducted so where do we get all this data from? This is from the Sobright Industry Trend Survey. And this is what people see on average devices, all right? 60,000 messages, 32,000 images, thousands of videos, right? So, and to make things more complicated, this is one device. But then when you go on ops or you go on target, you're really just dealing with one device, right? You're finding dozens. Phones, SIM cards, SD cards, encrypted apps, inside them, like all of that intelligence is just sitting there. I mean, if you just came to my office right now, there's about 70 different types of digital devices that you find, all with terabytes and terabytes of data. So where do you start actioning that intelligence? This is one of the key realities that our operators face, and they see that in the field. And we need to be able to give a solution to fix this. Okay, so this is where we're going to start pointing towards with our capabilities and what we can do to remedy this. So another set of challenges, time, right? So the clock is the enemy. So our Intel value decays in minutes. You've seen that there's an overload of data. Time is against you. You need to be able to get that stuff fast. Waiting 1 or 2 days for the lab, you miss that window of opportunity, right on. And the field, okay, it's another problem. We're operating at the edge, and it's not a lab, right? It's not a permissive environment. There's dust, heat. There's potentially, it's a hostile environment. No power, no connectivity. There's not a forensic expert on the ground to tell you how to do an extraction. All right. Access, as we know, I think that speaks for itself. Like, how do you get access? That's one of the challenges, right, at the edge. And then sifting through all of that mixed media, it's that, again, it goes to that information overload. What do? You've got drones, phones, laptops, and all the media that sits on that. Which one do you get to first? How fast can you get to it? And which one will give you the leads that you need? And now a little bit of a shout out to the operators, right, that have the challenge. And this is direct from the guys that are in the field. And from what I've heard, the guys who are operating at the edge, they need rapid lawful access to mobile data in the field. So that those devices and their onboard information need to be identified, reviewed quickly, and again, not shipped off and reviewed a week later. They need a tool and a workflow that doesn't require them to be a trained digital forensic examiner. Okay. So this has to work for a person doing a sensitive site exploitation, right? They're under duress, they're under pressure, not just a lab technician. And ultimately, the edge needs to find a way to rapidly share this critical digital intelligence across the battle space and beyond. Because, again, all well and good if we grab that data, and even if we grab it fast, but what do we action with it, right? Do we punch it out to the analysts, maybe sitting 40 kilometers behind the edge, right, and in their lab, or do we punch it out to another team or an adjacent team that's working that will be critical for them? Right? So this is the other part of the problem, and we see this. So what the purpose of today is to show you, like, that when we've modernized our offerings to also match these challenges head on. And I'll highlight some of the existing and the new functionalities within what we've got today that help address these challenges that we've talked about today. And obviously, last but not least, there's some new bits of kit that are coming out that are addressing exactly these operators' challenges. Right? From what we've heard from the field, we've heard the problems, we've responded, and I'll dive into that a little bit now. So I won't go too heavy on the products, but this is something that you guys need to be aware of, right? The tactical kit, the CTEC, right? Because every soldier is a sensor, right? And every device is a source, and this is what we're seeing. So as a result, everybody needs to have some sort of capability, or at least even from a platoon level, some sort of capability to be able to get that digital data. If we're not on it, the enemies ahead of us, right? We're constantly going to be chasing our tails, trying to find where an attack has come from, or trying to get the next one up on our adversaries. So I'll just quickly just show you what's in these, but I think you can see for yourself. It's essentially the whole suite, right? You've got the ability to extract. You've got Faraday bags. You've got your various cables. You've got the main things are that it's power power independent. You don't need to plug into anything this time, right? It's all onboard batteries, all NATO standard military batteries, and you can take this to the field, and you'll be good. Okay. So I think for me, this type of offering, fundamentally changes significantly all these challenges, right? That any trained operator, right, in the basics of insights can now do what previously required a specialist or a lab to do, right? And days of processing. So now it can be done in the field in minutes on any device, right? And then every extraction you do feeds directly into the wider ecosystem and subsequently the operational intelligence cycle. So data captured at the point of seizure, can drive decisions at every level, right? From the operator on the ground right up to analysts back at the level 1 or level 2 exploitation lab, right? We close the gap with the tactical kit that's coming out. So with that, I would like to move into the pillar 1 of our chat today, right? And it's the on-site mobile extraction of the insights. But some of these capabilities that exist, they're slept on, and every time I go visit the guys around the country, people are forgetting to use it or they're not aware of it. And I want to make sure that everyone can get the most out of the gear as possible. So because it is made that we can get stuff from the field, from the edge, during a sensitive site exploitation, for example. Okay, so we'll cover specifically quick view, triage, and selective extractions from me. Okay, and there's 3 things to take away here. So firstly, you can review the make, model, and identifies a device before you even extract, right? As soon as you plug in, you'll know what you're dealing with. Second is triage. The fact that you can deploy custom search profiles built around no names, no numbers, anything you guys are searching for in an operation or area of operations, keywords, location data, you can triage those devices and see if they're relevant for you. Okay, so you're not waiting for a full extraction anymore or waiting for the lab to find it. You know already what's relevant and what's sitting on that device, and then you can choose to extract. And third is you only extract what's relevant, okay? So the beauty, it's one of my favorite things, is selective extractions, right? The fact that you can select specific data sets to extract rather than a full file system now, complete game changer for the defense and intelligence operators, right? Saves you time and storage. And I'm going to deep dive into all these capabilities right now. So when you plug in, all right, what does a quick view actually service? So while the device is plugged in, quick view starts working on the side, right? It's parallel, and it starts showing you specific identifiers. So we're talking device identity. So the IMEIs, the IMSI, ICCIDs, device names, user identities, phone number, email account, and usage details, right? So installed apps, storage, wireless networks. Wireless networks have this phone connected to. Saved Wi-Fi passwords, even the Google advertising ID, which is good to plug into the wider OSINT space, right? Those who are working in that kind of group will know exactly what I'm talking about here. So why does this matter? Because now in a couple of minutes, it starts answering the questions that actually drive decisions from the ground, like who owns this device, what carrier they're on, is it relevant, what priority should we give this against everything else we've seized? And one of the good use cases that I heard about this is this being used in the field to verify identity at a checkpoint, right? So you're out in the field, you're conducting a checkpoint. If someone comes through with that vehicle and they're subject to a search, and their vehicle is subject to a search, while the search is being conducted by the guys onto the side, obviously the driver is pulled away, all right? And then you'll be starting to verify his identity documents, passport, driver's license, etc. But you're in an area of operations where there's a hostile conflict. You want to plug in that phone and grab those identifiers of this person, right? The first one is also just an identity verification, right? So if I come through a checkpoint and you grab my phone, it should say Nikki's phone, right? It shouldn't say Admiral's Nokia or something like that, right? So that it gives you.
Why do I get a Nokia? Why do I get a Nokia?
You got a Nokia. You're a dodgy guy. this is what you get. So it shouldn't say that, right? It should be generally it should be my phone, and well, if it doesn't, well, please explain. All right. It gives the operators to ask those questions and verify if there are any issues at all there, rather than missing this key bit of evidence completely. Okay, because that's if they're not doing it, they are. Okay. So this is one of those things that this is just one use case. There are plenty of others, and I know that there's guys out there that would have a few ideas in their head already where they can start using this stuff because it's quick and you haven't even done an extraction yet. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is triage, right? Because let's scale up a little bit. So real time, you're rarely dealing with just one device, right? You're often dealing with a pile of them, right? I know for a fact, whenever I went on site, at least 10 phones, okay? So Insights allows you to also triage multiple devices and scan across that batch to surface which one matches your search criteria first, right? So like the image here, you got 5 devices, 4 devices. Which one is going to be relevant? So I just sit down and start extracting one after the other. 3 of them might be dummies. One might be the relevant one. Okay, so this is where it starts to become important to know that you can triage devices and run profiles according to what you're looking for across the device to see if it's relevant. So you're no longer just triaging by sequence of extractions, right? You're working from a prioritized list of profiles and pushing straight through to the device and the content that matters without wasting time on the rest, okay? So again, you can create your own. There's a whole scope of things that you can create, and it really changes the game. It saves you a lot of time to do this. And mind you, again, you haven't done an extraction yet. You've just triaged. But from the triage, you can punch out those identifiers and take them to your Intel analysts or share them across your organization if you need to as well, to showcase if this device is relevant. It really helps, especially in the cases of where it's kind of a low priority job, and then you find something in your triage scan that flags it as a higher priority. It will change the tempo, drives operational decision making right there on the ground, gives you relevance, and so on. And now one of maybe my most favorite new capabilities is the selective extraction again. Now, coming from digital forensics perspective, okay, full file system was always the bread and butter that I used to do, right? And that's the way we're taught. And that's the way, we should do things, I guess, most of the time. However, when we are in a situation where we're on the edge, we're under duress, we're in a hostile environment, and we have the capability to get a device and get that data, suddenly full file systems start becoming a bit harder to do right there at the edge because it takes time. Because phones, obviously, as you saw, thousands and thousands of images, potentially hundreds of gigs of data. You need to get the relevant stuff that's straight away, rather than the 6 years of junk that often sits on phones. Now, once you've identified your device of interest, you've run your little quick view, you've done your triage, all right, you can choose to grab your extraction method. And now when we're at the edge, so we don't want to do a full file system, you can now do just a targeted approach of the full file system. And maybe I'm just interested in the chats, call logs, the contact lists, okay? So any portion of the full file system, I can now just grab a little bit of it, the stuff that's relevant to me. And also I can get the stuff that's in the relevant time frame. So I don't want everything from the past 6 years. I want everything from the past month, okay? Game changer in terms of time and the amount of data you have to look for, Okay, so it's flexibility. It gives the operators that they can match extraction depth to the time and the threat environment they're actually in. Right? So a 2-minute triad scan and in a hostile environment and a selective extraction looks very different to having to do a full file system extraction and pull it back to a more permissive location. So this is one of the things we want to talk about, because those guys in command positions aren't always aware that these capabilities exist, and they might be operating off SOPs that just say, yeah, full file system extraction, so don't bother doing anything at the edge, just grab all the phones and take them back to the lab. By the time they go back to the lab, 24 hours potentially, all right? And then until that stuff is extracted, decoded, you look at a lot more time, and you can potentially lose that edge or those windows of opportunity, right? You don't want to do that. You want to be as fast as possible and make use of the time to intelligence ASAP. Now, as a result, it's relevant data, all right? So instead of hundreds of gigabytes, yeah, you've got manageable mission-specific data sets, okay? So you've got freedom to do this now. And the beauty about this is now, because I can select what I want within a specific amount of time and the apps that I want to, I can go for and search through the relevant things, all right? Maybe I'm looking for a specific face in an image, okay? Or weapons, uniforms, keywords, specific hashes. So now it changes the game completely from an analysis perspective, whether I have to deal with 200 gigs of data and I have to go through all of it, or whether I have a much more manageable, maybe 10 gigs, right? And I search through and I find the stuff that I need, and I can push out my my analysis off the relevant silos from the different analysts that sit around. And it brings me now to what we do after, right? So we've done very well, right? So far, we've grabbed the data, we've grabbed the relevant data, we've reviewed it, but now there's the other problem, is sharing. How do we get this done? This is something I hear from the field, and we've been testing it with a few guys now as well. So we've got a solution also called Guardian, all right? Exploitation teams are spread apart. When we talk about the edge to the rear echelon guys, there's maybe depends on the battlefield, obviously, but it can be 40, 50K, 60Ks. Okay, so you've done everything right and you've acquired all the data fast and stuff. But what about disseminating this data? What if you're the exploitation lab that's needs to review this, that it's relevant to them, sits 200 kilometers away? Do you put this data on a hard drive now and drive it 200 kilometers through a hostile environment, or can you simply share it across through via Starlink, and you can start disseminating this data through Guardian? This is the next step. This is the share review capability we talk about in Guardian. It's a real deployment. It's working quite well. I've tested it recently with some operators, and the feedback was quite positive, right? So, talking a little bit of Guardian, it's pretty much it's secure data management and dissemination, right? It lets you manage raw digital collections. So if you have a full phone dump, or you have a bit of a phone dump, partial or a drone dump, if you've got documents, images, PDFs, anything that you've encountered from a digital intelligence perspective, you can share it across your organization, across great distances as well. Okay, all you need is an internet connection. So what this does, it really supports the early stage triage and analysis while still preserving your analytic and compliance boundaries, right? So you don't really break chain of custody or anything to get speed, and it allows one of the more important things as well is access control, traceability, and disciplined handling of sensitive information. Okay, so this is why it's a bit of a game changer here. This allows us to just also reduce lab backlog. Everyone that's sitting on this call right now knows for sure lab backlog is a massive thing, massive issue. If you start getting extractions and you move them off a hard drive, and now you can disseminate them for an internet connection over to the cloud, and you get it to the right people faster rather than waiting for the lab, it frees up the lab to do more of their own work rather than having to process your information as well. Okay, so frees up those trained examiners to focus on their complex casework instead of being a bottleneck for routine intake. So quite a we move with it. Yes, yes we did. So look, overall, that's my those are my 2 cents, right, over this session. In terms of from that kind of workflow from cradle to grave. Please let me know if you've got any questions. Feel free in the Q&A. But from here, I would like to hand over to you, who's going to take you through the drone side of this. Okay, through the drone workflows, and he's going to give you a bit of insights as to what's happening in that space as well. Yeah, Olivia.
Thank you, Nikki. So we're going to talk quickly about the drone forensics part of it from a military perspective. You're free to take these use cases and what I talk about and put it into other agencies and operations. So coming to the drone intelligence problem, the biggest issue in today's battlefield is the amount of drones that are there and the contact line. In previous wars and skirmishes, we saw that a traditional contact line was about 1 to 2 kilometers. And now, because of the advent of drones, that contact line has increased to about 30 to 40 kilometers and is buzzing with drones. We have a lot of solutions. We have a lot of conversations about soft kill, hard kill, bringing the drone down. But what we're missing out is the conversation about what information does that drone hold. Because that information in today's workflow, as we mentioned and saw in the poll, takes about a number of days or probably a lot of hours. And that is why it is information. What we provide you is a solution which turns that information into battlefield intelligence. And how that happens is it happens in minutes, not your traditional workflow, which takes about a week or maybe in certain cases, a couple of days. So what I'm trying to say is that detection is only half the equation. The other half is exploiting what we captured at the point of capture while it still matters. So the window of opportunity is very, very important. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next few slides. So with this, I'd like to introduce you to the product today, which is called the CFID, or the Covert Forensic Imaging Device. If you can see it on your screen, this is all that there is. And this is what closes the gap that detection alone does not. What it does, it moves the lab forward. It is small enough to fit in a pocket, and it is deployed in the field with the soldier. So the mission now moves to the point of capture instead moving rearward. And that is what affects the turnaround time to be in mere minutes and not days. So a little bit about CFID. It is handheld. It is battery powered. At present, it does extraction, decoding, and visualization of data from over 80 UAV that we support. And this recovery and this extraction is possible on field and in minutes. It offers you a full digital suite. So it not only does drones, but for example, if you're on an objective and you recover a number of media devices, it could be a phone, it could be SIM cards, it could be portable media. You do not need more equipment. Just this device is enough. Again, as we've designed it to be operated in the field, it does not require no internet connections, no connectivity. It has no dependency on a lab to establish its workflow, and it operates wherever the mission goes. And what it translates to is on the ground, for example, we'll discuss a little scenario over here. A hostile drone is recovered, and we have no attribution to the owner. The current workflows, you would recover that captured drone, put it in an evidence bag or tag it, and you would send it to the lab for forensics or for information. But that causes delay, right? What we do with the CFID is that we provide you this information at the point of capture. Now, what it does is, if you have this information at the point of capture, immediately you have two options on your hand. You can either engage the launch point from where the drone came. You could have your artillery, you could have your own drones go into that position and attack that position, or you could hold off, run counterintelligence on that target. You get your intelligence, you map the areas where these drones are taking off from, and you have a complete battlefield picture. Simultaneously, this thing also works in reverse, right? So if I get a drone, I want to know what all has the drone seen, what all positions have been compromised. If I get to know that within minutes, I can take decisions which would be force protection decisions. Things that I can move, I'll quickly move. Things that I cannot move, I'll probably harden or fortify. So it gives the commander the option to decide within the window of opportunity, not after it. So that is the basic premise with which we have introduced the CFIT version 3. And now the V3 has proved the concept in the field. It's been deployed. We've incorporated the user feedback, and very, very soon we're going to introduce the version 4. The version 4 raises the ceiling. There are three big major changes in the version 4. It has faster processing, it has an expanded storage, and it has a built-in display. Now, built-in display is where the things change. In the version 3, you had to connect the version 3 to an Android device to see that data, an Android mobile phone. But with the version 4, you can see it right on the CFIT device. So the intent is there would be no extra gear, no extra steps, and that is the whole intent. This is your one piece of equipment that helps you identify, extract, and then take actions. With drone capabilities, how I mentioned, it's basically the flight path and the information that you can see on the device itself, and time on target is detailed. Because with this kind of information, what you can do is that you can gather intelligence. You can tell where was the drone tasked to look at. That's where you read the intent of the operator. But if you just have the media files, it's just a drone from a lab, there's information, and that's not relevant to conduct present or future operations. So the net effect of the point of origin is that it's in real time, and this is the capability that our targeting forces need for force protection, which I described earlier. The extraction is initiated. The second part, that is the media preview. While the extraction is carried out, it's similar to what Nikki just spoke about a few minutes ago. So I won't go too much into the detail, but that is what it does. It gives the operator the decision and the option to act on time-sensitive critical information even before it's extracted. So the end goal and what we're trying to accomplish over here is to give you actionable information as soon as possible so that you can make informed decisions to continue and further your operations. And that's not just the value. We've gone a step ahead. So that is the decision-making part. Now we come on to the reporting part. How do you report? How's the convenience of reporting? We're talking about field conditions. We're not talking about lab infrastructure. We're not talking about a place where we have screens set up. So the CFIT doubles up. It has a seaport. You do not need any other device. You do not need any other external workstation to conduct this after-action review. You can just plug it in. It'll be up on the display. You can present the findings straight to the command staff, which again, the idea being ease of operations, quick, fast, definitive. And that is the point. And with respect to the training, I believe capability a unit can teach on its own kit will get quickly adopted in the entire unit vis-a-vis a capability that you need to go to a lab and learn. So this is always available, always on hand, continuous training day in, day out. So V3, V4, these were the changes that I covered. They're listed on the slide here. Some of them being that it now has an expandable memory, which is very, very good. Gives the user the option to store major data on their CFIT devices. But at the end of it, what I'd like to conclude with is that neutralizing the drone threat is just half the picture. Exploiting what the drone captures is what gives the commander his next move. And that is what the V4 does. The V4 puts this decision-making capability in every operator's pocket at the point of edge, not in a lab. Adam, I'd So that was it. In case anybody has any other questions, we'd like to take it up, or you could get in touch with either one of us on LinkedIn, and we'll be more than happy to engage with you and discuss how we can move forward and help your individual organizations. But thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Nikki and Yuvi will remain on the chat session for any questions that you have in relation to those capabilities. Some of them do cross over in relation to law enforcement and other areas as well. And some of them will be covered in a little bit more detail by the upcoming session with Nigel and Jason. So, gents, thank you very much for your time, for your inputs. Please reach out to them if you need to as we move forward. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Right. Thank you, guys. All right, gents. So now for our final session, guys, we are going to look at, I guess, from evidence to decisions. And it's been an ongoing, I guess, topic and discussion, especially in relation to D&I. A lot of those concepts that they spoke about in relation to being at the edge, making decisions tactically, and being under time pressure is what our next two guests are going to run through. We are going to let them introduce themselves. You've had my introduction earlier, but we are the investigations and intelligence engagement team. So historically, Celebrite are known as a digital forensics company and supporting the digital forensics lab, and we still do that. But the company has realised that it is not just about supporting digital forensics, it's supporting the entire agency in relation to what can and can't be done. And some of the tools that you've seen here today, 10 years ago, would not be in the hands of the investigators, and we would have had evidence perishing. So with that said, I will introduce Jason and Nigel. You guys take it away. And again, I will interject rudely as the session goes forward. Thanks, guys. Take it away. Sorry, first up, very well done. We have our last poll. It's been a long afternoon. It's been a long afternoon, guys. We have our last poll. And this is in relation to, would AI save your investigators? Where would AI save your investigators the most time right now? So again, play along at home. Need to actually click on the screen. So deciding which devices and data to review first. So would that area save your investigators the most time? The decision process. Summarising large volumes. Translating content in other languages. Would AI assist in that on the investigations or intelligence space? Finding people, places and connections across multiple devices. And reviewing images and video. So all of those areas from our experience where time poor in, I would say. What do you think would impact your agency the most? So I'm just going to, you have to actually click the screen, guys. We've got some submitted and just looking to bump up some more. So there's still got some coming in. So if we just keep rolling, just keep pumping it up a little bit more. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on. Okay, so there are our percentages team in relation to, so our bad. One of the questions that came in is all of the above. So, with that being said, I will hand you back. So Jason and Nigel work on the inverse happiness scale. If you're not upset by the time that they've shown you what they're going to walk you through, then they haven't done a good enough job. So please reach out to me and I'll arrange their pay to be docked. Good luck, guys. Over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Hello, everyone. Friends old and new on the chat. For those that don't know me, and Adam's given a very brief introduction there, Nigel is my name. That's my real name. I do the IU engagement for the Australia, New Zealand and Pacific territories. As you can see there on that slide, I'm a former detective with the Queensland Police. I've got more than 20 years in the job myself before I came over to Celebrate and started in this role. So I do come at this from the engagement space. I do come at this as someone who's done the work on the front line, a lot of experience in a lot of specialist areas, as you can see there in the detective space, and also in uniform, where I finished my career on the front line as a supervisor. So my role now is that engagement with investigators and intel analysts. We're here to help. My contact details briefly are there at the bottom, but please reach out to me anytime if you're stuck with something, looking for advice, and you think that we can help you. Please don't hesitate to get in touch. Jason, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason here. So, like Nigel and Adam, came from law enforcement. So I was with the Singapore Police Force for about 10 years. There I did spend most of my life in doing investigations. Started out with volume crimes, moved on to a stint in uniform. And then after that, I joined the Criminal Investigations Department dealing with serious sexual crime. So exciting times there, because it was during COVID and things started to shift online. So we saw the transition from a physical crime, move to online leads, online evidence. And from there, a lot of things started to shift, not only in terms of how we gather evidence, but also our mentality of how we do what we do. So with that, I also took part in the end-to-end review. Really had to dive deep into the investigation, how we handle it from the first point of reporting, investigations, prosecution, and then importantly, how do we cover the last gap, which is the last mile, which is taking care of your victims or even taking care of the family members of the perpetrators. So very exciting time there, because we managed to essentially modernize how we investigated sexual crime in Singapore. Then after that, I left and went to TikTok, again dealing with safety issues, so particularly with the child safety team. So that's where I had, I guess from the other side of the house, a tech company's view on how they design policies, how they handle intelligence, how they do investigations, then how things are happening on the platform from the back end. Yeah, so that's where I spent about 3 years really touching across the bulk of their products, short form video, live stream, shop, and their AI products as well. Then I joined Celebrite late last year, and yeah, I think my number is there, my email is there, my LinkedIn is there. Just anytime you need help, I cover the ASEAN and Taiwan region. Anytime you need assistance, help, or even just to have a chat about workflow modernization, just hit me up, and then I think hit any one of us up. Yeah, and we're just glad to have the conversations with you, just to understand where you're at, what's possible, and then how we can get there together. Yeah, so I think with that, let's dive right straight in. I'll hand it back to Nigel, and I'll pop back later for something exciting.
I'll just quickly Jason, jump in, Nigel, just before you kick off, right, mate. Guys, looking at the attendees list on the session, you spread all across. It's globally actually, but there's a few from areas that typically are thought not to. We don't engage with. We engage in any areas. The investigations and intelligence part is like an internal label. Don't think that your section is not applicable. If you are dealing in digital evidence in any way, shape or form, please engage with us. Our services don't cost. Our education doesn't cost. Our job is to make sure that if you have access to the tools that you are getting the most benefit out of them. So I see a lot of prosecutions agencies. We're all very experienced in the prosecution process. I give you the tip. Where most of us are still going to court, and we're well aware of the issues. So it's not just about digital forensics or intelligence or investigations. The end game in most areas is to make sure that the prosecution succeeds. And that includes all the way through the prosecution sections and what can and can't be done. So please engage with us. We don't bite. If there's a capability that you need and you buy, that's great. But if you're handling our products, then we want to speak to you. Nige, over to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, and I 100% agree with everything Adam's just said there. We're going to pivot a little bit here to those away from probably the lab side of things to the review side of things. We will sort of talk about the necessary step of validation, but here we're going to talk about the review. And the last speakers throughout the sessions have talked about, you know, the volume of data, and it's a real issue, not just for where do we put it all, but how do we get through it? And with that comes the risk of what do we potentially miss? We just want answers, as this slide suggests. And wouldn't it be nice if we can just ask questions? And I'll let Jason talk about that a little bit later when he makes my part of this look somewhat boring. So, look, we all know that evidence volumes are absolutely on the rise. Law enforcement and other agencies in this space, military, all of them are struggling to recruit. The pace of the data that we're coming into contact with is far outstripping our people power, but also our ability to keep up. I won't rehash sort of what's been said, but devices are more complex, data is more complex, data sets are more complex. How do we get through it?
Are you going to say do more with less? Do more with less, Nige? Is that?
That's, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That becomes the absolute issue. And in my travels, and I'm sure the guys would back me up, across every agency we go to, every investigation hits the wall at review. Some things can be quick to that point, but from there on it starts to slow down. So these are just some statistics that I've pulled from for our particular area. This is from APAC, the Asia Pacific region itself, and as Adam said, I know there's people globally, but this is a little bit more relevant to this part of the world. But I would expect that it's probably reflected everywhere. So we're finding that investigators and intel analysts are still, when I say investigators, it's both, to stop myself repeating myself here, but still using sort of Word or Excel or pieces of paper and anything else they can find to sort of go through and review evidence. Particularly digital evidence is probably going to be a little bit more on the electronic side. There's backlogs for those agencies that don't have their own capability and might be relying on other agencies. But even those with their own capability are experiencing between 6 to 12 months plus. And I got that from an agency during a conversation last week that's still a delay they're facing. But here at 200 hours review plus, I would say that's on the conservative side for a complex matter, is a real issue. Do we have the luxury of that much time to sort of sit and go through data? I just want to reiterate that obviously evidence has to be validated. Courts require digital artifacts are validated if they're being relied upon as evidence, and that's where reader and physical analyzer, that's their job. That's our reader and physical analyzer, and that doesn't change no matter how you surface any artifacts. But the challenge really isn't the validation, it's just finding those artifacts in the first place, and how do you surface it quickly out of all the evidence that you've seized. So the time saving actually sits inside discovery and not the validation itself. So we need to speed up the search, and the validation step will just follow. But how do we get through to the point of finding the stuff that we want? But even when we find that artifact, it's just that, it's just an artifact. It's a message, it's an image, it's a location, and there's no real surrounding information around what that is, which means that there's a real risk there unless you sort of are probably able to draw the conclusion because you know the case and you might have an idea about what that relates to. It really is where you're just at the point of making an assumption about what you found or what you might stumble across as evidence that you weren't actually even looking for. And we've all been there. You're looking for one thing and you find something else. I'll just quickly, we're going to talk briefly here about Guardian, and then we will talk about the Genesis product that are both Celebrite products. Due to the time constraints, we don't have time to demonstrate Guardian. If this is something you want to know more about, please get in touch with myself or Jason or Adam or anyone else from the team that's been on here today. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about it and take you through what it is. But for your information, Guardian and Genesis are both tools that can be used to surface information and artifacts much, much quicker than traditional review, such as PA or Reader. Just for a very quick overview, Celebrite Guardian is a cloud-based platform, AWS, for those that are interested. It offers collaborative capability where information, data, evidence can be uploaded to the cloud. And you can collaborate with other people and work on those artifacts simultaneously. It doesn't require any specialist equipment or hardware. You can look at it through any browser. There is some AI capability built into that that'll allow you to sift through messages and other things to try and surface things quicker. I saw on the poll there at the start that apart from our friend that jumped on and said that all of those things that we mentioned were an issue, the majority on the answers we had sat with getting through messages as being the major problem. And I agree 100% from my own experience doing investigations. Just a little bit further on Guardian, it is, as I said, it's a purpose-built cloud solution for investigations. There's 3 iterations of it, as you saw: forensics, investigate, and collaborate. It allows you to basically work and manage your investigation online with some AI type assistance built in. It's very impressive. I don't just say that because I work for Celebrite. I have used this and I could see how in my own experience it would have made my life much, much easier. It is a great tool. Is there anything you guys want to add before I skip on here? I know we're mindful of time, Jason, Adam.
I'll just add in, mate. Yeah, the sharing of it can be interagency. I've received exhibits from America before. I'm not in their agency, but I was required to do some work. So it's interagency. It still maintains the integrity of the forensic exhibit, which some cloud platforms do not, despite what they might say. The only other thing is we just recently launched an ability to ingest call detail records. So what you will be able to see within the system is your call detail records mapped to your suspects. So you would push those call detail records into the platform, and it will map them. So it's not. Don't just think of it. It's evidence agnostic. Okay. So there's a lot of different platforms do a lot of different things. This will pass out the UFDR. Okay. So some people make some representations that you can put the PDF into certain platforms and it's still intact and we can give you this and give you that based on AI. It's not forensically sound and it's absolute rubbish. Okay, so again, please engage with us. We've been doing this for 20 odd years. It's not our first rodeo. Nige?
Yeah, thanks, mate. And I'd probably just add, in addition to that, it eliminates the need for sort of downloads to USBs and USBs to be driven all over the town and the country and everywhere else and things like that. So that's another huge benefit of sort of the cloud platform that is Guardian. I'll just quickly switch over to Genesis, which we'll also talk about here, and my good friend Jason will demonstrate for you shortly. Sorry, Jason, that's the exciting thing. I just gave you away, mate. What Genesis is it's an open language platform, which you'll see shortly. You can literally ask it questions of your evidence and it will provide responses pointing you towards the artifacts that it's relying on for those particular answers. This is just some of the use cases. It's basically could be used anywhere for anyone who has a need for review. So anyone who now uses Reader or PA, Genesis has an application in your space. It will do more than just UFDRs as well, which I think I have on another slide. But look, it's very, very impressive. Again, I don't just say that because I work for Celebrite. I would have loved this back in the day, I can tell you. But it can do anything from sort of jail calls, video review, multiple data sources. It can even do just documents and things where there's not even a mobile phone involved in your particular investigation. And it's probably very pertinent today is the ability for it to translate. This is a common issue that I encounter in my engagements across my territory, and I know it's an issue globally. Where language and translation agencies are spending a lot of money for formal translators, where where Genesis has the ability to translate as it goes, which I'm sure Jason will demonstrate to you shortly. Just in regards to those file types that can be ingested into Genesis, it doesn't start and stop at phone downloads, as I suggested. It's basically any of these file extensions can be uploaded into the platform for you to cross-reference and check. So, for example, you might have a copy of your search warrant, you might have a phone extraction, and you could have 10 CCTV files. You can upload all of those into your case, and you can simply ask it questions, and it will scan across all those data sources to provide you the response that you need, which you'll see shortly. Just in regards to sort of time saving, which is what we talked about, is I just want the answers and sort of what this session is about. This is a comparison to, and this is a bit of a how long's a piece of string, but I did this on like a drug trafficking type matter in the fine print for those who can see it at the bottom. But basically, the search method where you're relying on sort of keyword searches versus plain language questions, it's just a comparison of the two. You know, you've got to not only just search per word, but you've got to understand slang and other things like this, and drug slang in this particular one. If you're not looking for those specific words inside the traditional platforms in the manual review, you may not see it or you might miss it, whereas that can get picked up in the open language searches that Genesis provides. So the other thing, of course, it does is provides context around the responses it gives. And you can see there towards the bottom that, you know, for a keyword search, you're looking at sort of 45 to 90 minutes plus. Conservatively, it probably depends how good you are in using the Reader or PA platform, versus about 5 to 10 minutes. Unlike Reader and PA, you can load multiple device sources into the Genesis platform. It will handle languages, as I said. It's not, up to 120 at the moment, basically, and then obviously documents and videos and other things as well. There's not particularly a need to sit there and watch video after video after video just to see what they're about. You can literally ask Genesis what the video is or something you're looking for specifically, such as a vehicle, and it will search the videos for you and tell you if that exists inside the artifacts that you've uploaded to it. You can look, it's as simple as just asking your plain language questions as you're about to see, and it will surface those artifacts for you and provide some responses and context back at you, which Jason will demonstrate for you live. And Jason, I'll pass off to you to do that right now, my friend.
Thanks, Nigel. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so you see another screen pop up. I think you can just click on it, and should take you to the screen that I'm sharing. Yeah, cool. Okay, so what we see here is live. So no gimmicks, no nothing, pure live system. This is what it looks like. I think the purple looks good, but anyway, down here is where you start to get a glimpse of what we're talking about. You know what we talk about, just asking questions. If you perhaps want to take a case, you can select it here, select the case, select your artifacts, and then start asking questions. So I think in the interest of time, let's dive in straight. So for this case, I'm not going to tell you what happened. I'm going to just ask a question, what happened? And then, Genesis will take 1 or 2 minutes, run through the evidence that we have. So what we have input here is 4 UFDRs from 4 different extractions. And that's where Genesis analyzes the 4 UFDRs across multiple different sources, start to make sense of it, essentially, and then give you the findings. So this case, essentially, it's a plot, including reconnaissance, safe houses, funding, cross-border supply chains, in order to target a military patrol route using armed attack methods. So in terms of command structure, it's actually given you the command structure. Leadership, who is doing the on-site supervisors, and then who is doing the what are the documentations involved, what are the steps involved, what are the communications involved. I think something that we also have, I think that's very unique, is for every analysis, there's a source. So I think when we look at it in the big picture workflow manner, what we have is the extraction, but the extraction remains sterile. Where Genesis sits is after the extraction, how do we make sense of all the information? But in order to be defensible in terms of investigations, you cannot give me something vague. If you tell me that this leadership, this commander is involved, you cannot tell me that it's from this UFDR. I need to know where in this UFDR, which messages, which images, which location data tells me that this person is the mastermind. And so we've provided it as simple as a click. You can see the communications involved. I asked it in English, but the sources are all in Thai. So therein lies the benefit of AI, because we're able to literally break down a lot of barriers that were traditionally difficult to overcome. Translations, transcriptions, image detection from text, your OCRs, your ASRs, those are things that traditionally took a lot of time to make sense of, to even translate it, transcribe it. And then the next hill to overcome is to make sense of all this information. But it's as simple as one click, it's as simple as one question. So from here, you map out the whole entire network, screenshots of what documents they were, what communications happened, what images were taken, what route was being scouted. So all this is a time saver, because ultimately it would have taken multiple people many weeks to sieve through 4 handphones and correlate them. Sieving through 1 handphone takes a lot of time. Correlating the 4 handphones would take an infinite amount more. So that's where I think the benefits of Genesis is really to break down that sense-making barrier, get to your information fast. Because as investigators, I'm sure Nigel and Adam will agree that I don't want to run through multiple layers. I just want my information, and I want it fast. And I want to correlate across multiple different sources as well. So if I want to look at financial data, correlate with metadata, correlate with locations data, it's all presented in one easy screen. And all I have to do is just ask. Yeah, so let's move on. So I know that there's some operation plot, but I want to know where the safe house is. So I just asked it this morning, and lo and behold, it gave me the location of the safe house through its analysis and all that. And productivity gains as well. You can see how they travel, how the 4 people travel. See the few dots that are highlighted in yellow. These are the places that they suspect is the safe house, just because of the communication methods, and then how they moved, and then what are certain markers that the investigating agents have pulled up. Simple as, if you want to look at a waypoint, as simple as clicking on it, go to Street View, you have Street View. So that's where a lot of all these small productivity gains are really there to make the life of the investigator and intelligence analyst that much easier, and get to the information that you want that much faster. So as always, everything moves with the money. So ask any financial transactions that are suspicious. It actually managed to find certain things that are off the book. Again, if I want to dive deeper into the conversation, I can look at it directly. If I need to validate it back in PA, this artifact ID is the exact same one as the extraction. So you know exactly which source to target back in PA. That's why I say that the lab process is entirely sanitized. So look at the orders, the receipts. What are the receipts that are being transferred to one another? How much it is. From here, if I need to tag the artifact, tag it, name it financial. And then you will see it here. And then click it, again, you export it back to reader for validation back in the lab. So all these are really tools to help the investigation officer or the intelligence analyst make their life easier and bypass certain barriers that, you know, traditionally would take up a lot of time, communications, financial data, running through hundreds and hundreds of documents. That is really, really very, I would say it's a big pain, because I think made my hair turn white, and I think made Adam lose a lot of his hair as well. So those are things that, you know, we really want to break down a lot of barriers that we see. So let me ask a question here. But this time I want to ask it in Mandarin. Don't have to do any language change. Automatically, Genesis will detect what language you ask in and provide answers in that language. And just to remind everybody that all the sources here are all in Thai. So we're breaking down a lot of different barriers.
You're going to tell us what the question is. You got to tell us what the question is, mate. Come on, mate.
Okay.
We've got nothing here. Help me.
Okay, let me do a Google Translate.
Which highlights the point of translation.
Yes. So I'm just asking for whether there are any suspicious chat logs, so that, you know, common screen here, so that, you know, I'm not faking anything. I literally ask, is there any suspicious chat logs? So going back to Genesis, you'll see that it's started to pull up agents. So let me run through with you very quickly what these agents do. So for the first classification agent, what it does is it tries to understand what you're asking. Semantically, car, vehicle, boot, bonnet, gas, petrol. They mean the same thing, but vocabulary is different depending on where you come from. So if you're in the US, you probably talk about hood, gas. If you're in Australia or Singapore, you probably talk about bonnet, or perhaps like petrol. I need to get petrol for my car. So that's where it understands what you're asking. You don't have to do much prompt engineering or that sort of thing. Ask it in plain language, as if you would ask. Some people choose to be polite with the AI. Please give me this, please give me that. But I'm pretty direct, so I'll just go any financial activity that are suspicious. So I guess don't need to be too polite with the AI. Just ask it as you would. It will understand your question. Then the next set of agents that will come up is your orchestrating agents. So these are agents that are trained as if they're investigators. Given task, run down the evidence. It's as simple as my previous head investigations who will tell us, you know, oh, it's your case. I need you to run down certain alleys, or I need to run down certain rabbit trails, or I need you to find this and find that and find this for me to build the case. So that's where it actually acts as an investigation unit. Run down the evidence, find whatever you need to find. The next set, which is your verification agent, essentially what it does is it verifies the sources and it verifies the analysis that the investigator did to make sure it hits certain confidence levels and it's not essentially making stuff out of thin air. And the last one is just formatting so that everything looks pretty and in a format that humans can understand. Yeah, because we don't read ones and zeros. So the answers, no language change. I did not go into any settings or anything. It replied me in Mandarin. And very particularly for APAC, I think there are two versions of Mandarin, so traditional and simplified. Because I typed it in traditional, it replied me in Mandarin traditional as well. So it's really that sensitive and that awesome, I feel. Yeah. So I think without running through too detail, basically it surface chat logs. Again, these chat logs are all in Thai. So again, language barriers, the amount of time, the amount of money that we spend on translators, hiring translators just for investigation purposes. I think we are seeing a change in mindset, change in operating workflow. For court, yes, we need to get a verified, certified translator. But for the purposes of satisfying my curiosity in the case, seeing what evidence to, what rabbit holes to run down, would I want to pay perhaps $4,000 to $5,000 for a day's worth of translation work? Maybe not. Yeah. And so that is really, to me, it's not just speed, but it's speed and it's savings in time, savings in resources, savings in money as well. Yeah. So run through all the evidence and then comes with the conclusion. Yeah. So I think, are we good for time, or can we share one more little bit, Adam?
One more little bit, mate. Sneak it in.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So something that I think we've recently launched that's I find quite exciting personally. I mean, APAC, the world is very diverse. So with Claude and with reality and all that, relativity, AI systems, it's very, very easy to build apps. Problem now is how, as law enforcement, how do we decode such apps? How do we make sense of such apps that are not available in the open market? So that's where we have a certain capability here. If you see here, there is this thing called Deep Investigator. So what it does is it tries to decode your app. Yeah. So let me run through a new chat. Russell. One UFDR, something different popped up. So what you see here is this thing called a database. For people that are technical, run through the database, select which one you want our Genesis to ingest and make sense of, essentially decode, like how PA decodes a UFDR. But this one, we are using AI to decode apps that perhaps only market users, perhaps that's very bespoke to maybe a criminal organization, a syndicate. They created their app specifically to disseminate internal communications within their network. So those are things that we can do. And I think I'm not going to show it too much details here, but essentially when you click this, that's what it does. It's a really, really magical thing, and it's something that is on the top. It's usually on the top of the request list by a lot of people who traditionally use PA, because they'll tell you that certain things I cannot decode, certain apps I cannot decode, PA cannot decode. But we'll always tell them that, okay, give us some time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, we will work with our product team to decode it. But now, with the power of AI, that's where we can use this function called Deep Investigator to try to decode it at a database level. So it's really unlocking capabilities and putting that capabilities in the hands of the user, so that we become a force multiplier. Instead of one person, instead of one Nigel or one Adam, we essentially start to have 200 to 300 people around doing the same work for us. So I think for the Deep Investigator, if you want to find out more, hit any of us up. Happy to show you how it runs. Happy to show you the wonderful and bespoke and really niche apps that we've decoded, and the power of how access to that information matters in law enforcement and in your investigations. So just to share slightly with you to whip your appetite. But I think apart from that, any questions, post in the chat, hit me, Nigel, or Adam, or any one of the Celebrite team up. And I think really we're excited about the project, the product. We're excited about its application of it. I think the limit of it is, the use cases for it is really as far as your imagination and how creative you want to be. Yeah. So I think handing it back to Nigel, and then we can wrap up. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say, probably more impressive there, Jason, as you were speaking in English, asking questions in Mandarin, of phones that were in Thai. Good work, my friend. I've got nothing to add, Adam.
There was just one question, Jason, if you could just reshare. The question was specifically in relation to Gemini 3.1. There are other models that are supported. The other question that came through was what kind of support, I've answered it in the chat, but what kind of support capabilities does Genesis perform on crypto? It's significant, guys. Most of the agencies, like we get a phone and we don't know whether to send it to criminal assets or not, or, you know, we're trying to fumble our way through it because, you know, not everyone's a crypto guru. So just the models on the top left there, Jace.
Yep.
The available models, the Gemini models. So yep. they're there for the person that asked that question. So crypto, back to crypto, it's supported well and truly. What it will actually try and do is look at the transaction ID or the wallet and actually try and identify based on the messages that go out from the phone. Like if I've got a wallet and I'm sharing it, it's going to come back and actually do some analysis there and say, listen, our best guess of all of that information is that Adam has sent a transaction ID or a wallet ID back to all of these people. So we think that he's the wallet holder, but that's your initial, this Genesis is not, it's evidence, but we're not relying on AI for an opinion, okay? Which is a massive distinction between all this AI talk out there on the street. All right, what we're trying to do is find artifacts. So if I found that crypto, what I'd be doing is going into my open source tooling and doing the investigation as we roll through. Support capable models than Gemini. Do you have OpenAI, Anthropic? No. We are using, where it's installed is a secure Google GCP, and it's supported on the model itself. I can see Nikki is answering that question now, so I'll leave that alone. But this product is the biggest thing to happen in my evidence review. In all seriousness, it's you have to get on board and at least kick the tires of it. Now, there's a lot of discussions about cloud and AI and this policy and that policy. Please get us in that conversation. Have that conversation with us so that we can answer you honestly and truthfully. In case we're here to give you a realistic discussion about what it does and doesn't do. We'll tell you what it doesn't do. Like you just said, like it's on Gemini. That's the model that's supported right now. And then we just want to be a part of the conversation. This is available for a 30-day trial now. If you contact us, we can put you in touch, or if you just Google Celebrite Genesis free trial, you put in your details, and if you're in Australia and New Zealand, you will automatically be accepted and you'll be able to upload data. If you have any questions before you do that, please engage with us. If you're in a country other than Australia and New Zealand, we monitor the requests, and then what we do is someone will reach out to verify that you're okay. The data will be hosted in Australia. So that's the verification step. But even if you don't want to upload some data, then we can give you some dummy data so that you can assess the platform for yourself. Okay, so it's very, very significant. Nigel, Jason, anything else while Jason's still got his screen up? We'll come back for a bit of a wrap up.
Yeah, I think the last two things that are probably just popped up when you mentioned, when you're talking about media, can you imagine a screenshot? This tool analysis was taken from a screenshot. I don't know about you, but I have thousands and thousands of photos on my phone. To find these two screenshots would take me a long time. My glasses will get thicker. I might lose my vision. But question is, how fast can you get to these two? Yeah, so that's really the value of Celebrite, because we're not only taking a Gemini model, but how we deploy it, how we train it, because all really is doing, it's just indexing once to pull out. And that's why we've drawn from years and years of experiences that we have in the digital forensics world and what matters to investigators and what matters in the investigation and intelligence gathering. That's what we train our agents as, and that's what it pulls up. So really the value is, Gemini is strong, but I think the real value here, the conversation would be how we train our agents rather than, Google has its own pros and cons, or different AI LLMs have its own pros and cons, but ultimately, I think the value is in us training it as investigators. So really that's the main differentiator from, regardless of whatever LLMs you use. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Apart from that, that's all from me. I think passing back to Adam.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That brings us to an end to the last of our sessions. I'm just going to push up the contact details of the IIU team. Separately to that, I'm going to now push up the contact details for the Defence and Intelligence team. If you need to reach out to any one of those guys. And lastly, to push out the contact details of the speakers in the discussion panel. So they're there for you to contact. There will be a poll at the end of this. We would love your feedback in relation to how it went. If you want to see or hear of other discussion points, other forums, if there's a particular area within law enforcement, prosecution, defence and intelligence that you want to learn about and have a discussion about, please let us know. Please engage with us directly. And if you have any questions about any of the content today, then please engage with us. It's just a conversation and it doesn't cost you anything. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually over coffee or, depending on the hour of the day, a beer. So that's us. I would like to. There's always people in the back of the house that don't get a mention. I would like to publicly acknowledge our brilliant marketing team of Flora and Hermione. Hermione specifically has been a driving force behind this, and we've been surgically attached to the hip while this has all been going on. So Hermione, thank you for your efforts in getting all of this together. It is no mean feat. Usually there's flowers or wine that's given at an in-person conference. I can't do that, so we'll move on. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I know that you're all very busy. Please, if you can, fill in the survey and let us know what you want to hear about. So it's not about us; it's about you. And thank you very much for your time and attendance today. And we'll see you at the next round. Thank you very much.